Welcome to a Syvecs help video, and this help video is on the user access and custom user IDs that are available with the Syvecs system. Now, some people may have actually connected to one of our ECUs before that's got a custom ID system on it and found that they're not able to access it until they've actually got the ID enabled on their laptop. This is then done via a soft lock, and it's a feature which is useful for, say, race teams and OEM manufacturers, but it's not always useful for end users. The reason for that is that it limits then the amount of calibrators that can have access to it, and it's designed more for like a race series or something where you want to be able to provide access to certain technicians that can do certain calibrations and features on the ECU instead of completely locking it down when you've purchased a generic ECU. So we generally only allow the ECUs to be locked down for an ID system if it's for a large order for an OEM or for a race team as such. With our main ECUs that generally most of our dealers will be purchasing, these are classed as a generic based ECU, and with that becomes the generic access and the basic access. So when you were to go to connect to an ECU, as you can see I'm doing here, you're presented with two options for the connection. You've got the generic and the generic basic. Now, the generic is the full-blown access and everything like that, and in some of our base calibrations, the generic basic basically allows you as an end user in the generic profile to be able to get rid of lots of maps that you don't really need to see. For example, if the calibration you're working on doesn't need to have nitrous control or supercharger bypass, then you can clearly just get rid of those calibrations from the Syvecs map tree. And there is another video that showcases how to do that, and I'll put a link in this video at this point here. But for the purpose of this video, this is about actually accessing maps and giving some of our dealers the option to be able to purchase a unique ID so they can restrict maps and protect their IP. So when you connect to an ECU like shown here, all of the maps are available, everything's unlocked, and there's no markers next to any of the maps. If for some of the times you've connected to an ECU and you see a yellow marker there, this could be just from where someone's updated the firmware and it's put a mark on it, so don't worry about that. But there's no restrictions or anything in red on any of the maps. The little dials that you see next to my maps here are just for the shortcuts, so when I press F2 it goes to that map, F3. And these can be, just in case you're interested, in the edit shortcuts. You can choose which maps they want to go to there. But anyway, so obviously we get lots of inquiries about dealers wanting to protect their IP. People put a lot of effort and time into calibrations that they've done on cars, and they don't want it to be completely locked down, so they don't want to be able to put a password that locks the full access. They just want to allow the end users or their sub-dealers, for example, to be able to access certain maps that they can change. And this is where the ID system has a really cool and unique feature that we can offer you. So basically you can purchase your own unique ID, and once you've got that, you would set it up and you can assign it onto your software by putting it into your ID folder in your program files Syvecs folder. Once you've done that, the ID will then be registered in your system. You'll get a root ID USB that allows you to set up the security for that, or you can get a soft lock if you are providing it to, let's say you've got two members of staff in your workshop. You want to give them access to have the ID as well. They can then basically go into the security system, which is found in the SNet server. So by down here, go into security, go into identity security, and then in here, once they will see all the IDs that are installed in that ID folder, they could, for example, just click on this, see what features are available, but they can then just go create soft lock. And they can basically, they can send you this code to you, and then you can actually create a soft lock for them and paste it back in to give them access on your unit. So the purpose of this video, as I was saying, is to showcase what you can actually do once you've got this unique ID installed. So at the moment we're connected via a full generic, as we've done and gone over before. If we do a device disconnect, we've then got access to the map in an offline state, and then you can go to cal, change identifier, And for example, I'm just going to put this on a Syvecs internal ID system that we have. So we're going to do that. And what that means now is that the calibration now has moved over to the ID that is the Syvecs internal. As you can see at the top here, it's highlighted where I'm moving the mouse. Once you've done that, what you can then do now, say for example, if you want to restrict this map so that other people can't view the data that's in there, but give them the option to be able to put their own one in there, so you don't fully lock down the ECU and cause problems with customers then fighting with you saying, well, I haven't got the password. This is a nice way of doing it. So what you can do is then press the cal and then go to F for edit property flags, and then you can go to the restricted and press R to enable the restricted flag. Now what that's done is that's put a restricted flag on this in yellow. That means that you've marked it as restricted, but currently it's because on your ID you've actually the one that set it and hence have access. Now, say for example, you could even do this for the whole of the fueling. You can basically apply that to all of these become restricted on a certain branch. Now, if you then go to cal and change the identity back to generic, you'll see that these maps now have got a red mark on it. Now you would then save this in the generic format. So you go file save and save this calibration that you want to send to your customer or your sub-dealers, and they can load this, no problem. But when they go to view, let's say they want to look at what injection end angle you're using, when they press enter to go in there and view that, it says this map has been restricted by the ID that I was using to restrict it. If you want to proceed, it will reset the values back to default. That gives people the option then to be able to still have full access to the ECU if they want, protect the IP that say someone has done, and also mean that it's not fully locked down. So it's a nice feature set that people should be aware of that is possible with the Syvecs system. We are working on changing some of the ID system around to be able to create your own IDs in the SCAL program in the future and have different sub IDs that way. But for the time being, for the next 6 months or so, this is a really nice way of doing it and gives you another layer of protection for your IP and your work.